So Jersey is a really tough place. It's not no walk in the park. How do you think growing up in Jersey helped shape you as a person?
Oh man, I think it rounded off the edges. All of those sharp nicks on the corner. It definitely sanded them down. I think that growing up in Newark, New Jersey, and growing up to a single mother in a city like Newark, New Jersey, in the West Ward, it can be difficult because it's not until you get older and you become a parent that you realize what your parent had to go through when they went to work, and you had to maneuver as a 10-year-old through the ills and the vices of the things that were going on in your neighborhood and your community, which also probably later on played a part of me understanding my community on a different level than others. Because when you maneuver through a certain place, you find its valleys, you find its peaks, you find the dark spots, you find the bright spots, you find a way to walk like no one has ever walked through your community, and you find how to be respected, and you learn how to become a man by dealing with men who are out in the community. So, growing up in Newark, New Jersey made me who I am.
That's a fact. And when you become a parent, you're more forgiving of your own parents and their shortcomings because you realize how difficult it is. It's the most difficult job you could ever have. Literally everything you do affects another human being.
Right, right. Sometimes you don't realize how, you would tell your baby at 18, don't go there, or I don't know if I could let a 10-year-old walk some of the paths that I've walked 10-year-old.
When you think about it, you're like, well, I went and did this at this age, but it sounds ridiculous or crazy to allow my own child to do that
Right,
at this age now.
right, right.
So, do you remember the moment that you fell in love with hip hop?
Yes, 1979. I lived in Irvington, New Jersey, 223 21st Street, right off of Grove Street. My mother had an extra room. At this time, is she's married to my stepdad, who's my father forever. I have his last name. He adopted me at 8 years old. Um, and at this time, her brother was coming home from the army. Uncle Darrell, we called him Rob. The streets called him Rob Bean. And we had an extra room. He came into the extra room, and he brought this 12-inch record with him called Rapper's Delight.
Oh
And
man.
he played it over and over again. And at this time, this is old school, but he used to fight praying mantis in a shoebox, and I would smell a funny aroma coming out his room, and the music. So the music that was coming out of the back of the house was different than the music that was coming out the front of the house. So the front of the house was Patti LaBelle, it was Evelyn Champagne King, it was Sam and Dave, it was Marvin Gaye, it was James Brown, it was all of those people. But at the back of the house, it was a hip hop to the hippie to the hippie to hip hop, So I wanted to understand what that was. And by finding out what that was, I started to delve and dive more into the culture and understood what graffiti was, and later found out that the record that I loved that introduced me to something that I love, the culture that I love, wasn't even written. One of the verses wasn't even written by them. So it just was intriguing. I wanted to be a part of this culture. I wanted to make something out of nothing as these guys did, because these guys, it was more relatable to me. The
Right.
living room was about love and breakup and heartbreak, in the back room it was about making something out of nothing.
And that's amazing because when you think about it, the front of the house was playing the music that would get sampled
Most
by
definitely.
by the artist in the back of the house, right?
Right.
So did you hear the do it yourself version? Like did you ever play that and try to rap over it?
No, I don't think I did, but I'm sure I probably have. I'm sure that the instrumental played, and we tried to freestyle and battle each other. But I'll tell you what it did do for me. That record in the back of the house made me go down to Newark Penn Station, which was seemed as a little child at 10 years old. Seemed so far away. I don't even know how I made it down to Penn Station. let alone to get on the train and go through the turnstiles and go over to New York City and stand out in front of those clubs and look for people, look for the address on the back of the records. And, it made me search for the culture at a young age. And my mother did not know this. So I'm sure if she knew her 10-year-old was catching the subway over to New York City in search of the hip hop culture, she would have had something to say about it and probably halted me from something that changed her life.